Are you eating a Twix?
No, I wish I was though.
Why am I not eating a Twix?
It's just sausage.
Oh,
Sausage links.
sausage Twix. They look similar.
They taste different though.
Are you getting your fat burning on?
I am. Yes, actually I am. I'm sitting still. So my fat burning, it's through the roof.
Oh dear.
I can't wait for this one.
Welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am a zombified Aaron Green.
And I am an alert and wide awake and chipper Michael Gray.
Have you ever heard that little song? I'm alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic.
Yes.
Yeah, now you're going to be singing it all day. Aren't you glad I did that?
You know, I haven't thought of that song for years.
And you're welcome.
It's been an accomplishment. So thank you for just ruining all my progress. Everything I've worked so hard for, just in one little fell swoop.
And I can do that even as a zombie.
As a zombie.
Aren't you proud of me?
I'm always proud of you. So we're recording a little earlier than usual. It is about 9:30 my time, a little after, and it's 8:30 where Aaron is. We usually don't record till closer to lunchtime. So we're both a little like, okay, let's go here. Focus. I do not have near enough coffee or alcohol in my system for this.
I think you said something about
because I always record drunk.
One whiskey in. Yeah, we never have. And we've been joking. I think that's been like a running joke since the beginning.
Yeah, and it's been over a year.
I'm not sure overdue. People really want to hear that though. Yeah, I don't know.
I
caffeinated.
Don't think
you
should answer for them. I think they should answer for themselves.
Let the masses find out
what they want.
Yeah. Okay.
So
comment if you want a happy hour version of Michael and Aaron.
Yeah, with a couple of drinks in us, not wasted, right? But just a little loosey goosey. Let us know because Aaron thinks you don't, and I think she's wrong. So let's find out who the winner is.
You just had a vivid resemblance to Michael Scott when you said that. Well, Aaron thinks you don't. Yeah, I know. I knew you'd appreciate that compliment.
I feel like I just reached the high point of my day at 9:52 in the morning.
Yeah. It's all downhill from here.
It's only going to get worse.
So I have to tell you a little bit about my new workspace because
sorry. I was going to say, do you have a new mug? I thought you were going to say that, but never mind.
No, I've had this mug. It has my first initial E on it. For those of you who are not watching,
I thought it was for energetic, not Aaron.
Right, enthusiastic,
alive, alert, awake.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aaron's in her new house. Yay!
Yeah, that's the reason I'm a zombie is because moving, it turns out, is a pretty sucky process. But it is going really well. I mean, I think part of it is just finding new homes for everything that you have, I mean, we have about the same size of space. It's just, everything's just configured differently. So it's like putting together a puzzle and trying to get organized and whatever. Yeah. And so my new office space has a window right off to the front here. And there's a hummingbird feeder that the previous owners left on the tree, like out by the tree. And there's a little hummingbird that comes every day and she visits me multiple times. And yesterday she flew up to the window and was like looking at me in the window. And then she'd dart away and then she'd come back and she'd be like, I see you. And then she'd go away. So I have a new little coworker.
I like that a lot. Your fingers in the camera were a little trippy. Like it was
you like that?
I don't say
like, she could poke my eye out.
It just was like, whoa, that's really close.
I'm trying to animate this for people who are watching.
Yes,
if you're listening, you're not getting the full effect. So
yeah. Quit being just a listener. Jeez. Yeah. Actually, we really should ask ourselves more like, why are we continuing to do video when no one watches?
Well, I mean, even if we didn't post the video for people to see, I think it makes for good conversation
Sure.
for each of us,
Yeah.
to see each other.
I'm sure
And
it
your
helps you to
facial
see me.
expressions, it helps a lot. And your facial expressions cue me as to what's coming next and maybe what you don't have a hat on today though. And one of the things, so our topic today, everybody, is probably going to get Michael a little fired up at points. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I was going to say shock.
And when he wears a hat, when he's getting ready to like get into a rant, you see the hat adjustment and kind of this look. Yeah, you kind of look away and you adjust your hat and clear your throat. And here we go. It's off to the races. And I'm like, there's no hat today. What's this gonna? What are we gonna do to get you all like prepped?
See it coming.
It's like your locked and loaded switch if you like adjust the hat.
That's interesting. I didn't realize I did that.
So it's important for me to see you.
Yeah. Okay. So now it'll be curious to see what I do without a hat, to see if I have other tells, which I guess if I do, I feel like you know them by now because I only started wearing the hats on the show not too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done plenty of rants before that. So,
yeah. So, and sometimes maybe you don't have, maybe it's like poker face if you don't have the hat. I don't know.
The hat's my weakness. It's my weakness. Hats.
You could look at it.
Hats are my kryptonite. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to keep that in mind as we go through today.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I get ranty, I'll have to see what happens.
I'll let you know if I notice any body language.
Please do. What are my tells? Yeah.
So how was your second week of school going?
This week sucks. It's just, so it's Lila's third week, Sophie's first week. Lila's in fifth grade. Sophie's started preschool. So Monday, Lila stayed home because she was with a friend on Friday who wound up testing positive over the weekend. So we had to keep her home and get her tested. So she missed school, was negative, went back Tuesday. Sophie had her first day of preschool on Tuesday, had a great day. She loved it. It was the cutest thing ever, taking her and picking her up. We get a call that night that a kid in her class tested positive. So her school Thursday is canceled because she just goes Tuesday and Thursday. This morning, Lila wakes up, isn't feeling good, like sore throat, runny nose, just kind of lethargic. So she's home again today, just got her tested. It's like, oh my God, like this is just going to be, I think, how the school
and waiting for
goes.
Results to come back from the test.
Yep. So lots of kids at home just waiting, I think is going to be the school year.
So I'm curious, and I don't know, how much you know or want to talk about this, but do you know if the kids are having like symptoms, the kids that are testing positive? Is that how the parents knew to test them? Or is it just like some other, oh my gosh, navigating this.
That would be my guess, would be symptoms, but
that they just start feeling crummy and they get a test. And this whole situation, it's kind of, for me, it's just surreal to see this sort of unfolding a year and a half later in a similar fashion as to what we were seeing last spring, except now we have a vaccine and we know more about transmission and we know more about just, how to test and navigate and do all this. Yet we're still running into this whole disruption, this life disruption and unknown. And deep breaths, everybody, deep breaths.
It's just, it feels like it's kind of the Wild West right now. Like it's everybody for themselves and everybody's making up their own rules.
Out and hey, the Wild West was really big on whiskey. So you could just carry that bottle around with you and
and murdering people for, zero reason at all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a great option. So let's not go there.
Yeah. And also, didn't they have isn't that one like Medicine Men where like selling cocaine is like medicine?
And opium? Yeah. Probably.
So we could bring that back too. It'd probably make this more enjoyable, right? This whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Right. They had they had brothels and all kinds of stuff. But okay. Michael's into the Wild West, everyone.
If it's the end of the world, let's enjoy it, right?
Right. Bust out your spurs and chaps and get on that trusty steed and go take care of business today. Go down to your local Walgreens and get your
with your cocaine juice and yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So you're moved,
Or
you're in. Oh, sorry. I was
yes,
changing.
I was going to say, or you could connect with nature, watch the hummingbirds outside your window, go ride a bicycle, chat with a friend, call a loved one, snuggle your pet. Those are all really great self-care ideas as well.
Yeah. All of them
So
that we mentioned. Yeah. So any of those are viable options. That's what Erin's saying. Just wanted, because
yes, we are.
it almost felt like you were excluding what we had just talked about from your list, but I wanted to make it
Just
clear to everyone
I
that
was
wasn't the case.
I was practicing yes and.
Yes, and
Yes,
whiskey,
you
cocaine,
can
hookers,
do
and a bunch of other things.
and furry snuggly pets and nature and being outside
Vegetables and sunshine
and hot tea, all of the
all the
G-rated things.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we are completely moved in.
Mhm.
Rally Cat is adjusting. That has been
Right.
a little bit of a trip
You're keeping
because
her
the
inside.
first he
Sorry.
is staying inside for now. Yes. And the first night, whoa, Matt and I were like, this must be what having a newborn is like. And we're not interested in doing this again anytime soon. He was yowling all night outside our door.
Check. Here, I'm going to do the newborn checklist. Okay.
Yeah.
So check. Yeah.
We left the window open so he could go sit in the window and in our room. So he'd go sit in the window and then he'd be calm for a few minutes and then he'd come traipse across it. He jumped on my head off the headboard. And we usually don't let him stay in our room because he's so disruptive at night. He can just stay out and do whatever he wants in the living room. But we don't have like a barrier. He can just come right up the stairs and be right at our door. So we were trying to keep him calmer that he could like come sleep with us if he wanted to, but he was not having it. And he was freaking out, crying. It's gotten better, but he still has those moments where he's like crying at our door and yowling a little bit. And so I think it'll just be a transition period, but hence another reason why I'm zombified. I love the little guy, but man, he's not making life easy right now.
Yeah. I think I've said that a few times about having kids.
Probably.
And
yeah.
I love them, but you're making life tough right now. It's 3 a.m. and you haven't slept.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with the cat, I can just put earplugs in and let him cry it out. With a kid,
You don't do that? I'm not supposed to do that?
Well, I guess there's some philosophies that jive with that.
That's true. This is true. No judgment here. You do what you need to do. But yeah.
So have
Let's
we
dive
done
in,
enough BSing that we should talk about our topic for those
I
people
think
that are
we've
fast forwarding through our, Michael and I catching up?
Yeah. We might have done more than enough BSing at this point. We might be all BS'd out.
I'm never BS'd out.
Yeah, I'm not really either.
I can keep going.
Yeah. But let's do dive in.
Let's do it.
Dive in. Okay.
Yes.
So Erin mentioned that we've got a topic today that there's a chance I might get a little worked up. I think Erin might too. I think it's one of those topics, right? But we're going to talk about the whole fat burning zone concept. So if you've been to a gym anytime in the last, 30 years, you've probably seen, like often they're seen on like treadmills, or they'll have like little posters on the wall, right? About just different heart rate zones, and how if you're in this really specific little place, you're in the fat burning zone, which the implication there is that if your heart rate is in this specific range, then you'll burn more fat off your body from exercise, right? So we're going to discuss burn it off, just like melting off.
Just light it on fire.
Yep. There's a puddle of fat on the floor because it just melted off your body.
Sounds awesome.
That's how that works. Yeah. That would be a mess. to clean
Do you
up.
ever see like those fat burning zones also have like red, or sometimes they have like a little flame next to it or something? Like there's all kinds of marketing around those things. And
Mhm.
I remember, as you mentioned, if you've been in a gym in the last 30 years or something, but I remember first learning about this when I was at university and learning about exercise physiology and just how our bodies utilize different kinds of
Mhm.
fuel and how this whole thing works. And I remember being a really, once I got into exercise, being a really strict follower of that fat burning thing. Like, oh yeah, I want to burn the fat, this is the best zone to be in. And then I started learning more about the
Yeah.
nuance when it comes to what that actually means, that fat burning
Mhm.
zone, and some of the myths involved, and how your body adapts to fitness and body composition, and individualized differences in where that zone falls. It
Right.
actually can be quite a big range. And maybe that's a good place to start, is just helping people kind of understand where this whole fat burning zone came from,
Mhm.
just metabolically speaking, and what that means, how that translates to each individual, because it's quite different.
Okay.
So um
Well,
just talking about the do you want me to dive into that, or do you want to
I was going to say
explain kind of your
I can give the quick, just kind of like
oh yeah, go for
average
it.
percentage of where we're at,
I love it.
Um, so your fat burning zone is typically on average, this is like Aaron said, a lot of nuance, depends on the person. There's a lot of subtlety here, but in general, about 70% of your max heart rate is where that fat burning zone is. So if you want to figure out your max heart rate, you take 220 minus your age. So for me, I'm 40, right? So 220 minus my age, 180, 70% of 180, whatever that is, would roughly be my fat burning zone. Okay. So that's kind of how you figure that out. Yeah. So we have that established. Did you want to
Yeah.
build on that?
Although the research
Although,
actually says that, some estimates say 60% of your
mm,
max heart rate, but then some give this, the research has this wide range of anywhere from like in the mid 50% up to like 72%.
yeah,
So it really depends. That's a huge variability when you start
it's
translating
huge.
that to heart rate. All of a
Yeah,
sudden we have Michael's heart rate being,
let's do that math.
somewhere, yeah, probably somewhere between like the 120s to the 150s,
So
somewhere in there.
55% would be 99.
Oh geez.
So like,
Yeah, so eating breakfast.
yeah, like walking to the mailbox.
Which is fat
Uh,
burning, by the way.
yes, it
We'll
is.
get
And we'll
into
talk
that
about
too.
that to 126. So in there, that's a
Oh, it
big
doesn't
difference.
get that high, really. So
Mm-mm.
70, I was thinking it was going to get higher than that, but yeah. So as you can see, there's a huge range there. And I would challenge anybody to kind of do the math. Okay. So the 220 minus your age is an estimate for age predicted max heart rate. So it doesn't mean, you really should go, if you want to know your specific max heart rate, go get tested, go to an exercise physiology lab. Many major universities have this. Some gyms have that capability. Go to someone who's an exercise physiologist, not just somebody that like, you know, does a calculation for you. Okay. Go get it tested if you want. And so, because I know that if I did 220 minus my age, which is 40 next week, 180 is like, I don't think I've gotten my heart rate ever to 180 in the last like 10 years.
Right.
It's super high for me.
Yeah.
So my max heart rate is lower, and I have had testing done through my career in triathlon. My threshold heart rate was like way lower than what people would expect. And part of that is my size, part of it's genetics, part of it's my fitness level. So
Mm,
just know that when we get into this talk on where your zone is, like the percentage of your max heart rate, the 220 minus your age is an estimate, but it's a good starting point, because it's fairly reliable, like as a starting point.
yeah.
So
Okay.
you do your math and then take that, 54% to 72% and see what range that gives you for a heart rate. So
Mm,
for Michael, it was what, 99 to 120 something?
so yeah. 8, 6, 120
Okay.
something. Yeah.
So let's say you go to the gym or you go out for a run and you have a heart rate monitor. and you can watch what happens as you're working at these different intensities, observe how hard it feels or how easy it feels to work out at these different intensities. And I think that that is another important point for people to keep in mind when we're talking about this fat burning zone and intensity and overall caloric burn with activity. Because if you're not working hard at all, you're not burning as many calories as if you are working very hard.
Right.
So if you get into that range and you're like, oh, 99 beats per minute, this is totally easy. I can do this all day. Okay, that's fine. Yes, you're probably using predominantly fat for that activity, but you're not burning as many, like the total caloric burn isn't going to be as high as if you were to, go to that upper end. So just sharing a little bit of like self-experimentation to see how hard or easy those kinds of efforts feel. And we'll talk more about why that's important.
Yeah. So I'm going to get back to that point you just made in kind of a roundabout way. So as we've pointed out many times, and probably many of you know, like this industry, fitness industry, diet industry, nutrition industry, they're really good at taking a thing that's true and then blowing that out of proportion and marketing with it, right?
Yeah, market the hell out of it.
Like we see it all the time, right? Like, I'm not going to get examples, but so what we have here with this fat burning zone is it's true. At lower heart rates, you burn a higher percentage of the calories you're burning for that activity from fat stores. Okay, so let's walk through that, because if we just say that, it could be maybe get glossed over. So let's say, so let me say this: the lower your heart rate, the more calories you're going to burn from fat.
Correct.
Also, like Erin said, the fewer calories you're going to be burning in total. Okay. So if we look at fat burning zone, and the lower our heart rate is, the higher percentage of calories we're burning come from fat. That means that if we compare walking to the mailbox to laying on the couch, you're going to burn more calories from fat to do that activity of just existing and laying and maybe shifting your body and respirating, like all that stuff, right? But which activity do you think burns fewer calories? Laying on the couch, right?
In total.
Yeah. So there's truth to the fat burning zone in that, yes, you will burn a higher percentage of calories that you're burning from fat when you're at lower heart rates. That's how the body, that's what it's preferred fuel source for these lower heart rate activities. But we're using way fewer calories. We're not burning near as many, right? So if we look at, okay, so what does that mean for as our heart rate gets higher? Out of 70, 72% into, 80, 85% of our max heart rate. Well, sure. Now we're burning a smaller percentage of those total calories from fat, but we're burning way more calories. And here's the thing: is the body doesn't work in these micro instances, right? It doesn't work like, okay, so if we burn more calories, but it's not from fat, well, then that fat's just going to get stored and stay around. Like whatever amount of calories we burn, the body just kind of figures it out, right? Like it doesn't really matter if we're looking at weight loss or that kind of thing, where we draw fuel from, because calories are calories. Okay. And sure, they're different, but they're also the same in a lot of ways. And so when we look at trying to utilize something like the fat burning zone for the idea of burning fat off our body, we need to realize we're talking about two different things. Okay. So the assumption is if we're in the fat burning zone, we're going to burn a great deal of fat doing this activity. That's not the case. You're going to burn a great deal of the percentage of calories being burned from fat. And these are two wildly different concepts that have really gotten mixed up in this whole fat burning zone, because there's just this massive assumption without any nuance from people who are marketing, because that's what they do, right? Forget the nuance. Let's just do black and white here, because that's good marketing. And so there's this massive misconception of how to exercise, at what intensities, at what rates, what they do, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And one of the things to be clear on with the higher intensity exercise, as you said, your percentage of fat utilization starts to level off or decline because your body needs oxygen to use that fat as a fuel. That's why you start breathing a little heavier when you move your body more. Now, when you get to a point where you can't actually get enough oxygen in because you're breathing so hard and your body is using it at such a rapid rate that you can't actually burn that fat and rely on that fat as your fuel, your body is very wise and it switches over into using more carbohydrate and more quick acting types of fuel that can be very rapidly supplied to the muscles. So then
that's
your
what's
body
needed when the exercise is intense, right? We need it now.
Yes.
Now.
Yes. When you're working harder and when you get up above that whole fat burning zone, you're not only, burning the calories that you were previously burning at a lower intensity, but now you're topping it off with additional calories from carbohydrate at higher intensities. So your total calorie utilization is higher at those higher intensities. Now, your body doesn't just shut off fat burning all of a sudden and say, oh, okay, well, now we're switching to carbohydrate burning. It's using a mix. And that mix depends on, again, genetics, fitness level, body composition, all that stuff. There's plenty of research that shows, there's some pretty reliable truths, like well-trained athletes will use a more appropriate mix. So they'll be able to rely on fat a little bit longer and a little bit better than that carbohydrate switch. Obese and overweight people tend to rely a little more on that carbohydrate if they're not as fit or if they do have that body composition. Different ages rely differently on that. Even women, depending on where they are in their cycle, will rely differently on how much fat or carb utilization they'll use during exercise. So just keep in mind that all of these things make it individualized to you. And your body doesn't just stop using fat. Right. In fact, it's really wise in that once the exercise is over and your body can have enough oxygen to then use that fat again when you're like recovering at rest, making your lunch after your workout, whatever it is, your body will then take that fat and be like, oh yeah, we need to restock carbohydrate stores. We need to use this. It'll kind of kickstart that calorie burn further beyond the end of your exercise. So just keep in mind that when you do work into higher intensities, you're still going to be burning that fat for longer periods of time, and you're still going to be using a lot of calories. So I think this helps people from getting stuck in like keeping their intensity really low and going for long periods, which also has value. And we can talk a little bit about that because there's a lot of different ways that you can mix up your exercise to best suit you based on your health goals and fitness goals. So, yeah.
And a variety is good. I mean, there's a place and benefit in intense exercise. There's a place and benefit in leisurely walks through the neighborhood. I mean, those less intense activities are really good for heart health. They're really good for mental and emotional health. There's a lot of benefit to them, but we just need to be clear on what that benefit is. Right.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, one, just for personal reasons, so we kind of understand what's happening with our body, but two, just honestly, to continue to create awareness that, hey, like we need to do thinking for ourselves, because this industry is an industry that's going to take advantage of things. Not on the whole, but in large part, right? Like it's just continual. It's the new thing, and how can we market it, and how can we make people feel scared if they don't do the thing that we're trying to get them to do, so they'll do it. And a large part of why I even want to do this topic in the first place is just to put this out there again. Like, hey, this industry can be really predatory. It can be really loose with facts and science and results of studies. Truths. Yeah, a lot. So it's just really important that we just, anytime we hear stuff like this, like we talked about this before, like what's going on underneath? What's left out? What's not being said? What are other people saying? And just really spend some time thinking about this kind of stuff. I do have to say, I'm surprised that we don't see on treadmills at this point, just with the way things have shifted from like the 80s to the 90s, of like, oh, fat free, to now carbs are the devil,
Right.
that we don't see
your
like
carb burning zone.
Carb burning zone. I'm honestly shocked. I've never heard that term, and I don't know why, because it seems like a natural thing for these idiots to market to people, right? Your carb burning zone.
But then we also get this really bizarre aversion to relying on carbohydrates for energy. Do you see that? I see it in the endurance industry all the time, which is why we're seeing this whole craze into the ketogenic diet, because there's this camp out there that believes that using carbohydrate for endurance activity or higher intensity activity is a bad thing, that you want to teach your body to use fat all the time. And the reality is, let's just honor that your body is super smart and that physiology adapts for a reason, and that there's all kinds of stuff going on in your body where, even though you're trying to manipulate it through diet or exercise or supplements or whatever your current hack is, your body finds a way to survive in the most efficient way metabolically.
Right.
And so you can maybe nudge the needle a little bit where you don't rely as heavily on carbohydrates during certain intensities. Some of that just happens with basic fitness, like just becoming fitter. Your body will be more efficient in that way.
Right.
But for especially like top performing endurance athletes that are really trying to like nudge their metabolism more toward that fat burning and less reliance on carbohydrate, well, I mean, sure, there's potential advantages. You have a vast reservoir of fat energy in your body, far more than you do carbohydrate. So the idea is that you can pull from that fat storage for longer at higher intensities than using the carbohydrate. Then you don't run into as many fueling issues and bonking and all that stuff. Okay, that's sure that can happen. However, we don't know to what degree. It's highly individualized, and it takes a lot of very consistent effort in dietary rigidity and control in order to really get your body to realize that shift. Also, this is not something that can't be remedied with a decent fueling plan. Right. So if you have a fueling plan that takes care of that carbohydrate need, so work with a sports dietitian or somebody that can help you with this, then it becomes a moot point, really, because you're giving your body the carbohydrate it needs at those higher intensities or at those really long endurance events. So that's just another, I wanted to kind of dovetail into this because it's another sort of factor that we see in this whole fat burning craze. You know, we hear it with the ketogenic diet, with intermittent fasting. Oh, you want to boost your fat burning potential. Well, I mean, yeah, that all sounds really great and sexy and like super cool if you can burn more fat. But really, it comes down to how are you able to fuel what your body is doing and allow it to just do what's best physiologically for itself?
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. I do see a lot of fear around that. Just a lot of fear of carbs in general. And I think the interesting thing is this is the case with any macronutrient, right? Like if we can't, protein is a broad term, fat's a broad term, carbs is a broad term. And so when we talk about being scared of carbs and people being afraid of ingesting carbs, like, well, what does that mean? And while that is particular to the individual, right? That probably means something different to everyone. In my experience, talking to a bunch of people all the time about this, that usually what that means is processed foods, right? Like highly palatable processed foods, chips, cookies, crackers, ice cream, that kind of stuff. But also a lot of times grains, right? Like especially any kind of highly processed, like white bread is the devil, right? And things like that. But so here's the deal is then, well, what about potatoes and sweet potatoes and fruit and vegetables? Because these are all carbs too. And so when we paint a macronutrient with a real broad brush, well, that's maybe not the wisest thing to do. And I think we talked about this last week about like semantics with language, but it does matter. If we're going to talk about like carbs then we need to be real specific on what we're talking about when we talk about carbs. And maybe we shouldn't use carbs in that broad way. Maybe we should use it more specifically when, we're talking about that as whatever, avoiding or whatever, or having fear about it. But it's really common, and it's funny because, a lot of clients I work with are probably my age or older, so they were around for the fat-free craze, and there's still carryover from that. Do you see that too? Where it's like, okay, so I'm scared of carbs, but I'm also still kind of scared of fat.
Right. You've been trained and conditioned to look for the fat-free options or the light options or whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that now you're piling on the carb fear,
carbs,
and then you're piling on some other like weird fear, like it has to be non-GMO and organic and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden you're whittling down your dietary options.
Yeah. And now it's like you have so little to choose from, and it just sucks, and everything sucks. And when everything sucks, you're probably not going to stay there for long. Or if you do, you're not going to thrive. Like that's with anything in life, right? Like when things suck, either you got to get out of it, figure out how to get out of that situation, or you start kind of wilting away, and that's what we see time and time again with people approaching, trying to be healthier. Is it's got to be this weird little specific thing because of 40 years of nonsensical bullshit information. Right. And so now I've got these 6 items I can eat. Right.
Right.
And how'd that work last time?
I know. Why is that not sustainable again?
Yeah. So why aren't you doing this from when you tried a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Why are you still not doing it?
Right.
Yeah.
Why can you only do it for like 2-3 months at a time? And then it's, I'm done.
Sucks.
Because a holiday comes along. That's why. Oh, it's, a holiday comes. It was 4th of July. I had to have, the burger or whatever.
Or because I had a piece of pizza. And so now I'm out of ketosis.
It's over. So,
which real quick, can I say this real fast? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Please.
And I still feel like we just need to do already an episode on the ketogenic diet, because we just keep going there a lot. But can we just reinforce again that your body going into ketosis it's like fail-safe backup. Things are not going like we want them to plan.
It's like the emergency parachute after your real chute doesn't open.
It's like, oh, things aren't working.
Yeah.
Because that's what the body does when it's like, oh, you haven't given us carbs for long enough that maybe they aren't around. And so we'll go into this kind of fail-safe mode that we have as a backup so you don't die, right? And we can use fat from our own. We don't need, that whole process.
Yeah.
But I did it again. I just lost my train of thought. How do I do that when I'm in the middle of saying it?
I don't know. I think it's because your brain is so full of like vitriol for the diet industry.
I just get too worked up. It probably will.
So we will talk about, go ahead.
I got it. Just last thing is that there's a reason that when people are going into like ketosis, they call it the keto flu, right? Like that.
Oh, geez.
That week or two where people really don't feel great and they feel like super foggy mentally and they feel sluggish.
But it passes, Michael.
It does pass.
It's just temporary.
But the reason that keto flu is there, that experience, is because the body's like trying to figure other shit out and it doesn't want to do it. It's not ideal. It's not a smooth transition because that's not where it naturally wants to be. It's a backup, like kind of survival mechanism. This isn't the place where a body thrives.
I always laugh when I read something about, oh, but it passes. It's only temporary. I'm like, well, so do kidney stones, but you don't want to undergo that just if you don't have to.
Right.
So I feel like we've digressed a little bit, but this is important. I guess related topic is talking about how dietary manipulation in that whole fat burning sort of pigeonholed mindset that people get into. I think it all relates. So not just the exercise approaches, but also the different dietary approaches that people take when they're trying to, quote, burn fat. So as you were saying, like, life is just going to suck if you're if you whittle
Little
down
ray
your
of
food
sunshine.
choices, I know, if you whittle down your food choices to nothing, I think the same thing can happen with exercise. When people think that they have to do cardio, for example, or you have to go out and do these really long, low intensity kinds of exercise in order to quote burn fat, I think that can run some people into problems. And I have a few examples. One is just, if people, let's say, you don't have access to somewhere where you can, walk safely or hike safely or whatever. So you end up just going to the gym and walking on the treadmill or doing the Stairmaster at a certain intensity for hours on end, and you hate it. And you'd rather like go play a game of pickup basketball, or you'd rather go play miniature golf with your friends, or I don't know, you'd rather do something else. Maybe you want to do a CrossFit class instead, but I need to be in the fat burning zone. I think that some people can really limit their options as to what activities they can do. Some of those activities would burn fat just as well as just strolling on a damn treadmill. And some of those activities would actually be better for you because you're using your body in different planes of motion. You're doing strength exercise, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. And you're engaging socially in some way. So I think that sometimes people get kind of caught into this, like, I have to control my heart rate. I have to be exactly in this zone. And they really limit themselves to that, that very specific type of exercise. Then we get into, I just mentioned strength training. I think this is a huge missed opportunity for quote, fat burning and fat loss and calorie burn overall, and just overall health, especially for you aging women out there. I'm one of them. So I'm speaking for all of us.
Right there with you, girl.
It is so important to maintain lean body mass as we age, and it's harder to do. And so we see that having that stimulus on your body, that strength training, again, multiple planes. So you're doing like lateral hops and, different pivoting motions and just working in different planes of motion, and doing some of that high intensity interval training. So think of like burpees. If you've ever done burpees and you do 10 of them in a row, and you're getting like a really jacked heart rate, and then you give yourself like a minute, 2 minutes rest, bring that heart rate back down, and then do 10 more burpees, you will experience what a high intensity interval training set is. It's bringing that heart rate way up. It's getting probably well above that fat burning zone, but then it's coming back down. So you're hitting into that glycolytic zone over and over again. Your caloric burn tends to be higher. It's a great stimulus for your muscles. So you tend to retain and build lean body mass better. And that high intensity interval training can keep the caloric burn higher for longer periods after the exercise is over. Absolutely. So again, a plug for that strength training and some of those, high intensity sort of interval sets. And the beauty of this is it doesn't have to be a super long workout. For some time crunched people, you can get a really good high intensity workout in 15 to 20 minutes, literally. Absolutely. Just like a short workout, get that heart rate up, down, up, down, up, down. And it would be far better for you in a number of ways than just going on the treadmill for an hour at, 60% max heart rate.
Right.
So,
yeah. So I think, when I start working with someone and fat loss is one of the goals, my priorities in this order are, let's look at your nutrition, right? Number one, like, let's look at what you're eating, in what ways, in what circumstances, environment, and let's begin to overhaul that, right? Let's look at adding more fruits and vegetables and lean protein. Let's, begin to create awareness around hunger cues and fullness cues and why we have certain cravings, like that kind of stuff. Like, that's priority one. Second is strength training. I think strength training is often wildly misunderstood for its benefits with fat loss. It's for all the reasons you just said, right? Like, you burn more calories. There's this afterburn effect where there's repairing of muscles and metabolism stays higher for a little bit longer. We retain lean body mass, which, if we look at lean muscle tissue versus like fat tissue, lean muscle tissue is more metabolically expensive. It's not a wild difference. It's not a huge difference, but it's a difference, right? And it keeps, like, if 5 pounds of muscle versus 5 pounds of fat, it's going to take more calories to maintain this 5 pounds of muscle. It's just more metabolically active. And so if we can retain as much muscle, or maybe put a little bit on, like, this is a better situation for our metabolism, right? It also, it's going to do things like help you with injury prevention, help you overcome, chronic pain, issues, that kind of stuff. It does a lot of things. Now, that being said, it's important that someone likes what they're doing and feels good about it. And some people have no interest in strength training. That's okay, right? Like, I wish everyone would, but if someone doesn't want to, if they don't, if it's not yet, that's fine. Let's just get you moving. But after that, after strength training, I think what I would do next is some of more of this lower intensity. Like, hey, let's build in some activity into your week that is easy to recover from, that can be really enjoyable, that maybe you can do with your family. So it doesn't feel like this, I'm carving out big chunks of time that, that creates a hardship on my family, or I'm sacrificing time with them, going for walks, going for bike rides. It's, let's schedule a game of tag in the backyard for 20 minutes, this kind of stuff, where it's like, we're doing and we're moving, but it's not, I'm exercising now, and it's enjoyable and it's easy to recover from. You're not zapped or wiped out the next day. And so that's the hierarchy I tend to approach things, is let's look at nutrition, and then let's strength train, because strength training for fat loss is wildly underrated. It's really, really important. And I think it's the, I don't like saying this, but it's the best form of exercise to engage in if you're looking for fat loss. Well, I think no matter what you're doing, it's the one, like, modality of exercise that affects everything else. Like, if you strength train, you get stronger, you can get faster, your endurance gets better, you get more resilient, you get more mobile. Those things don't necessarily influence strength, but strength kind of works out. So it's important.
Yeah. And just to your point, when you talk about, like, go schedule a game of tag or do something else, I'm thinking things like, take your kids to the water park and, go mess around in the pool with them and play games and stuff and toss them in the air. I mean, those are all forms of strength training. Schedule a snowball fight or build a snowman in the wintertime. If you have snow around, that's some strength training, pushing a big, heavy snowball across the field or whatever.
Go sledding.
Yeah, like
walking
all
back
kinds,
up that snowy hill over and over.
Right?
That's strength training.
I mean, there's all kinds of things. And if you love to garden or do yard projects, I mean, working a shovel and carrying, bags of soil or whatever it is. I mean, you can get really creative with this stuff. The only thing is, all of those activities I just listed are rarely things that are put in like 2-3 times a week for people. Right. And so when we get into this, if you don't like strength training, you don't belong to a gym, or you don't want to go to a gym, you really have to create opportunities for yourself to go out and get some of this muscle stimulus. And just back to that whole fat burning zone thing, sometimes it is just so easy for you. You have a favorite loop that you walk in your neighborhood and you go out and do that. Something is better than nothing. I think what we're trying to get at is, one, don't limit yourself to certain activities or certain foods just for the sake of sticking to this whole fat burning kind of concept.
Right.
Okay. And that there is a lot of benefit to variety, both in the food department and enjoying your foods and eating a variety of different nutritious foods of all macronutrient forms, and a variety of exercise, so that you're getting that different stimulus, and your body will take that and do what it needs to do with all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did I just put a bow on it?
I feel like you did. Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah.
I think you just bowed it up.
I don't think I had anything else for fat burning zone.
I was going to say a bunch of stuff, but you just said it all. So.
I still.
That's why I was like, yeah. You just.
For what it's worth, I didn't notice any kind of a like body language, pre-rant indication today. So maybe it is the hat.
So I was very sneaky.
You were. It was very sly.
Sneaky rants. I didn't get super ranty though, did I?
You didn't.
No, not too bad.
Surprisingly, you started to with the keto diet.
I saw your face when I brought that up. You're like, okay.
If you all are watching,
sidetrack.
You should go over to YouTube and watch right now, because as soon as I mentioned the keto diet, Michael kind of got this dreamy look in his eye and looked up and was like he's daydreaming about all of the things he's going to say to rant against the keto diet when we do that episode. When's your birthday, Michael?
My birthday is in 4 days.
Oh, I was going to say we should do this for your birthday, but actually, hey, we're both Virgos. Check that out.
Makes sense. So we're both so awesome.
Of course. Yeah. That's why we
get along Virgos. So well. I don't know how we didn't see it before now.
I was going to say we should do that for your birthday. Yeah. Mine is next, Monday to the Monday after Labor Day.
So 13th. Okay. Cause I'm the 5th.
Yeah.
So close.
I know.
So close.
Well, I was going to say we could do a keto diet rant for your birthday, but it might have to wait until my birthday.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the thing about that is it's been such a widely accepted quote unquote truth, right? The ketogenic diet. It's so widely accepted, more so in my experience. It seems more so than things like the Atkins or the Zone diet. Those were big.
Yeah.
Those were real big and everybody knew about them, but keto is just like everywhere and it's so inaccurate. And that's why
there's
such a beef with it.
Following, there's this cult following with it. And
it's dogma now. And I think that's why I have such an issue with it. Cause I really am like, if someone wants to do, if they like the Zone diet, cool. Let's figure out how to make that work for you. Right. And let's make sure that it's kind to you and it's good to you mentally and emotionally. But let's make it work. I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting, but if someone really wants to give that a shot, okay, let's try to build that out in a way that really works for you. Right.
Right.
When someone wants to do the keto diet, I'm like, oh God.
There's, as we will talk about when we do that episode, there is a lot of different interpretations when people say, I want to do the keto diet or I'm doing the keto diet. So
and most people's
we'll get into
approach to that, or it's not, I'm getting way off topic. Never mind.
That's okay.
All right. Well, thanks for wrapping up, Erin.
5 minutes later. So do you have a meeting in the mundane this week? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I do, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head.
Okay. I'll go first.
Yeah. I even posted about it, right? Didn't I post about it? I have to go to my Facebook to look at what I posted the other day. Cause that's fine.
So our first night in our new place was Friday night after the movers came. We finally had a bed here. And of course it was a sleepless night because of our cat not enjoying his new surroundings and being all, anxious and confused. Mm-hmm. So I woke up Saturday morning completely bleary eyed and there's just boxes and piles of stuff everywhere. Right. And the one area of the house that was pretty much put together was our patio, because you put the patio furniture out there and it's basically done. Like it's just there. So I made my coffee and went and sat out on our new patio. And it's just like a private little courtyard on the side of our house. So I'm in my bathrobe and I'm just like sitting out there in the sunshine, and the morning is just nice. And, it's starting to cool off overnight. So it was just a really blissful moment of respite from the chaos of moving. And there's no indication that anything is out of place because we're just sitting on this patio with our patio furniture, my cup of coffee, and just enjoying being outside. There's a little hummingbird over there. There's a feeder out back too. And so, it was just a really nice little moment, and something as simple as just, sitting outside and getting a breath of fresh air with my morning coffee was perfect. It was all I needed that day.
A moment to pause.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
I know.
When you get a moment,
you have to
pause,
make it happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you're aware of like, oh, this is a moment where for everything for me gets to just stop for a second. Mm-hmm. And when you really get to sink into it, that is a gift.
It's rejuvenating for sure.
Oh yeah, it is. It really is. And it's stepping outside of the madness for a minute and just like, that's a good moment.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I posted this, and it's funny. This is a few days ago, because you actually said on my post, you're like, hey, you have your meeting in the mundane for this week. And I was like,
oh, right. I did, didn't I?
Yeah. So the other night I was putting Sophie to bed And, we always like lay in bed with her and read a couple stories and we sing songs and then we snuggle and talk and then she goes to bed. And then she gets up and then she gets up and then she gets up. But anyway, that's how bedtime goes.
It's like you have a
she's got
cat.
to tell you something, right? Yeah. But anyway, the other night we just kind of, she was like laying in the little crook of my arm and we were just kind of snuggling. And she goes, Daddy, I'm going to give you 40 snuggles. And she like wrapped me up real tight, like, right, just like snuggled right in. She goes, okay, now we count to 40. So we like held each other like really close, just all snuggled up and we counted to 40. And I'm not going to lie, I started counting a little slower as we got closer because it was pretty awesome. I didn't want it to end.
31 and a half.
Yeah, right. wait, I missed one. Let's start over. But so we snuggled up and she gave me 40 snuggles and it was a pretty awesome way to end bedtime.
Oh, good job, Sophie.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I saw your post that she has a lot of love to give this world. And that's a perfect example of the type of person she is and just wanting to give freely to, I feel like she's probably very intuitive and empathic in that sense. Like, hey, you could use a hug or, hey, you could use some closeness in your life. I'm going to give it to you. Yeah,
she does. And she's just super sweet too. Like I'll bend over to like tie my shoes and she'll like come and like put her hands and be like, I gotcha. Like, I'm going to help you balance so you don't fall over.
Cute.
Like, I gotcha, Daddy. It's like just that kind of stuff all the time. It's the cutest thing. Oh my gosh.
I love it. Good job, Sophie. Yep. You just keep offering your little support to everybody.
Yep. She does.
We all need it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and continuing to support us. And reach out to us, middleish@gmail.com, or follow us on Instagram, Middleish Podcast, and we'll catch you next week.
Yep. And remember to rate, subscribe, share, review. All that stuff is really helpful. Thank you much.